No, this is not the Miss America pageant. It is the Coaches Roundtable. I'm Ed Codi, and welcome our guests. To my right, Dr. Carley Greenawalt. To my left, Dr. Jessica Davis. They are co-owners of Perform Physio Physical Therapy, located on Route 228 in Mars. They are here today to talk to us about sports injuries, in particular about concussion. So let's go right to it. A lot of misconceptions out there. What is a concussion, and what happens to a player when concussed?
So the general definition of a concussion is it's an acceleration-deceleration injury to the moving brain. So it's the brain moving within the skull vault. And what that does is that creates shearing of the vessels, the blood vessels, neurons, which leads to a cascade of metabolic and neuroendocrine symptoms.
So either one of you can answer this. A player, an athlete, doesn't have to be struck in the head to develop a concussion.
That's correct, right. So it could be an impact injury, right, where the head physically contacts the ground or another player, or an object, obviously, or it can just be the acceleration of impact, right? So not actually impacting anything, just the acceleration of the brain because it's floating the cerebral spinal fluid. So the movement of the brain in the system.
So a running back or even a player being blocked can be hit like around the waist, and they could have a whiplash, and that can cause the concussion, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, anything where that brain is moving forward and is suddenly stopped when it comes in contact with the skull.
So what happens to the brain chemistry itself when that happens?
So there's a rapid change in the chemistry at that point, right? So you get a change in the vascularity, and there's an actual change in the neurochemistry in that moment. And it just is a cascade of events. And so that's sometimes why in the moment that your players will appear a bit foggy, or there may even be a loss of consciousness. There'll be an accelerated heart rate. There's a change in the autonomic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system in that moment. And these symptoms can be variable, and that can be sometimes some of the challenge in the moment on the field in diagnosing these athletes. But they say if any of those symptoms are present, even that general just confusion or fatigue, headache, obviously, those will indicate that this player should be assessed.
So is this what happens when they often refer to so-and-so, this player is in concussion protocol, meaning?
Correct.
What?
So anytime they display one of those symptoms that Jessica just talked about, we give them a concussion protocol. They need to be evaluated for a concussion and diagnosed with a concussion. The prolonged symptoms, if you don't get diagnosed early, would be the loss of memory, could be a loss of inability to concentrate. Amnesia is another one. Fatigue, oftentimes there's sleep disturbances, there's irritability. So any of those symptoms can be prolonged if we don't catch on to one of those acute symptoms.
How often with a concussion for an athlete is the neck also injured? Is there a correlation between the two?
It's pretty common because if you think about it, I mean, obviously our head is attached via our cervical spine. And so with these athletes, that's why it's important to have the cervical spine very fully evaluated and screened and looked at carefully, because even it can often happen that a cervical spine injury can mimic the signs of a concussion, down to even having dizziness or vestibular issues. I mean, obviously the headache can be generated from the cervical spine. So the differential diagnosis of the two, concussion versus cervical spine, is critical. And we'll often treat both.
And what is the normal recovery time? Once it's been diagnosed that the athlete has a concussion, what are we talking about?
So 80 to 90% of concussions will resolve within 7 to 10 days. Okay, it's those 10% that have prolonged symptoms that can last months or even years after the concussion has occurred. Generally, you're going to see a little bit longer of a recovery time for adolescents and children than you are for adults. And interestingly, non-sports related concussions actually have more prolonged symptoms than sports related concussions.
Oh, that's interesting. WQED had a program I watched a couple of years ago, maybe recently, more than that, called, it was a documentary called League of Denial, the NFL's concussion crisis. And so I try not to get caught up how much of this is hype. I know the seriousness of it, having played high school and college football. Is it a crisis, or is it a a problem and it's being sensationalized as a crisis. Where are we here with this?
So some would argue both, right? Because the fact that that was brought into attention from the media has been beneficial to players, and the fact that there's an awareness, right? So it's educated coaches and players and parents about the fact that, look, we need to pay attention here. The problem is there's a high fear associated. So these young kids who do have a concussion, based on what they've heard, have this fear of, oh no, now my brain is going to be mush and I'm going to have all sorts of problems develop when I'm older. And I mean, the reality is that's up for debate, right? We really don't know the cause of that fully. There's a lot of case studies out there, but the true cause is still up for discussion. It's still being studied. So I would say there's pros and cons with it.
I'm trying to look at both sides. So football gets the lion's share of criticism and notoriety, but as you two know, concussions occur in all sports. To make this sport safe or that sport safe 100% is impossible.
Correct. So actually football does get a bad rap, but a lot of times it's football that gets a bad rap because the NFL bring it into attention. But also, if we look at the number of people that participate in football versus other sports, it's much larger than other sports. Actually, concussions, the most concussions occur in women's ice hockey. So if you look at all the injuries in women's ice hockey, 18.3% are concussions.
Well, I thought it was soccer for women.
Nope, it's women's ice hockey, followed by men's ice hockey, and then football is actually third, and soccer's fourth.
Women's soccer.
Women's soccer, yes.
And this is why in soccer, below the age of 14, they're not allowed to head the ball anymore.
Right, but actually there's research out there about that, as far as it's actually, most of the time heading the ball does not actually cause it. It's a contact, player-player contact.
And we do a lot of volleyball games, and I'll tell you, these girls and guys, they smash that ball over their net maybe 100 miles an hour. If they get hit with one of those balls, they're going to get concussed. So my point is, there are a lot of sports here, and so sometimes parents say, I don't want my kid playing football, but they'll allow them out in the backyard to be on a trampoline, which to me is very dangerous too.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Ann McKee, she's a neurologist at Boston University. The male doctors kind of pushed her aside. She's the director of their CTE program there. She tested 91 NFL players for CTE, 87 positive. But here's what I like about her view. Tell me what you think about it. Her main concern is understanding what causes CTE in some football players and not in others.
Exactly, right? Because that's the mystery. Because why are some developing it and some not? I mean, and you think about, there's so many variables, and so what the research currently being case studies, this is case by case. But that's why we need the detailed research of somehow knowing what were the precursors, what was the lifestyle of that individual, and look on it on grand scale. I mean, there's so many things that could have influenced that. Is it the aging of the central nervous system? What did that person do in their lifetime? And there's just so many variables there that have to be explored.
Is there a study out there about like older NFL players, the percentage of those that might come down with CTE and the percentage of them in their 70s and 80s who don't have it? Is there such a study or any kind of study out there?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't found any that talks about specifically football players.
There's the only study that is that systematic review in 2015 by Dr. Maroon here in Pittsburgh. And it was a systematic review looking at all of the case studies that are out there of CTE. And the thing that they came up with was, yes, the precursor, the one variable that was out there was that they did have a mild traumatic brain injury, but they said caution with that because, again, it's case studies we're looking at. So there's too many things that are at play here, and more research needs to be done. So the end result was saying that we need more research.
So here's a big question was asked in that program. What kind of a father lets his son play football? You have two boys. I'll ask both of you, what's your response to that?
Well, it's funny because my son does play football, or he did. He plays ice hockey, which is up there.
Same.
And as a parent, of course, and as a physical therapist, I had some fear. But what I learned is, of course, I looked at what I know research-wise, and I also learned that he's coached well if he's playing, and whether he was out there in baseball and got hit by a baseball because he plays baseball. So I let my kids play. I do. Yeah.
And
I think just to add to that too is, we talk a lot about sports concussions, but there's so many things that you can get a concussion from. Motor vehicle accidents. You can fall down a set of stairs and get a concussion. So sports get a bad rap simply because they are as a higher percentage. But I think that it could happen anytime, anywhere.
I wish we had more time. Dr. Greenawalt, Dr. Davis, thank you so much for your time. Our set has never looked better. I'm going to have two beauties coming on to replace them right after they leave. Thank you for your time. Hope to have you back again sometime.
Thank you.
I'll be right back with Ellen George. I am back with two beauties of our own. To the right, the Swami George Abraham. To the left, the Tiger Albert Campman. Guys, we're going to talk about some concussions later on, but the two doctors here really gave us some great insight as to what happens and what goes on with a concussion.
Just think about it, they study that all the time, and we just get the little tidbits of it, and most of it's negative. We get, there's not a lot of positive we get. It's automatically sit out. As George said, we were sitting here laughing. He said they used to put smelling salts under his.
Yeah, you tear that thing. It was like,
you're all right. Get back in there.
Yes, what I like about them, they took a fair approach to football.
Yeah, they can just say it's
and
done.
not beat football up like so many people have. Let's go to Spotlight. College volleyball, University of Pittsburgh senior libero Angela Seaman, Seneca Valley High School. She was a member of the U.S. volleyball team that captured a bronze medal at the July American Games in Brazil. And more Seneca Valley College lacrosse, 2011 Seneca Valley grad Brenna Gallagher. She's named the new women's lacrosse coach at IUP. Baseball, Butler grads Jacob Keene, a first baseman, and Justin Stewart, a catcher. They're members of the Youngstown Palomino Championship team that will play in the Palomino World Series in Laredo, Texas. That's coming up this weekend. And the Cranberry Pony League team travels to Los Alamos, California for the Pony League World Series also this weekend.
You love to hear those stories, and they get great competition. They get great experience. I like the experiences they get more than the competition, to tell you the truth.
Los Alamitos, good horse racing there. Now that Hollywood Park is closed.
The horses have got better.
You would know that.
Yes, I know that.
Lernerville Speedway results. Sprint feature winner, Cy Lynch. He's the son of legendary driver Ed Lynch. Late model feature won by Michael Norris. The modified feature won by Rex King Sr. coming in second. Rex King Jr. Sorry, Jr. Can't beat Pop. And Pro Stock feature was won by Corey McPherson. Our stories of the week.
I want to say something about that because I didn't know that. You do. You hear a lot of juniors. There's a lot of families that they start young and learn from their parents.
Racing family.
Racing family. That's what racing family. Yes. Never thought of that.
Legacy sport. The kid's 4 years old. They throw him on a tractor. When he's 8, they put him on. I've seen pictures of Dale Earnhardt Jr. 8, 9 years old.
Yes.
You go to Lernerville, you know the name of Ed Lynch.
That's awesome. These guys are great at what they do. Don't kid yourself.
Uh-huh. We have to get one of these guys on here sometime.
That'd be interesting.
For an interview.
That would be interesting.
Let me get one of them on.
Yes.
Our stories of the week. The Butler Blue Sox, they are out of the Prospect League and looking for a league of their own. While at the same time, some of the club owners are looking to sell their shares. The Sox finished 21-39 this year, next to last in league attendance. And my source tells me that this was kind of a mutual thing. The league kind of wanted them out because they're the easternmost franchise there. Now, where to go to play? Great Lakes League, so you're traveling. Still, the travel's a problem. You're up in the Michigan, Ohio, and even a team in Canada. Does Erie have another team up there? Another league?
They're an affiliate. Erie's an affiliate.
There are a few options on the table. You're not going to go to the Cape Cod Wooden Bat League. You'd be flying to play there. So what they're going to do, and they don't have the pro to keep this team with the college players, undergrads. You can't compete in a league with the Washington Wild Things either. So there are some serious concerns here. Serious concerns for the city redevelopment authority to fill that void if they don't play next year.
And that's what it is. It's a void. Good way to say. There's been some people spoiled with some good baseball around here. Us three really saw some good baseball. So that leaving, that is tough.
It looks to me like they're done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know where they're going to go.
I don't know one thing. I just know if travel's an issue and you're already the easternmost team and they wanted you out and you're going to go further.
Actually, if you make the playoffs, you lose money.
Wow.
Because of the travel
Yeah,
and the stay
yes,
over,
yes.
and so on, it's extended another week. It's not a money maker.
So it's the opposite of the Pirates. Pirates will play lousy and make $1 billion. They can play
We
great and
just
still lose
said how
money.
they
Yes.
increased
Some
their
rich- it has to be-
163%
It has to be
increase.
some rich guy who just does it for a hobby,
Yes, uh-huh.
doesn't mind bleeding money. Because as you say, if the investors are looking, what's that tell you?
Investors is a misnomer. It's not an investment.
Right, no.
It's
No, it's
more
a
of an
hobby.
interesting. So
Yeah.
you sink $50,000-$60,000 of your own money in like Carmen could.
Yeah, Carmen-
you're not getting 80, 90, or 100,000
No,
back.
no, and, these guys in the pros and their egos get the best. Like Steinbauer. Now he'll just outspend you, but this isn't what you're
Same
going to
thing.
do there.
It's serious stuff, and then you go to some other cities that maybe financially are in a better situation. They can give those teams sweetheart deals and say, your stadium rent's $1, $5. That's not going to happen here.
Not going to
It's
happen.
not that financial
No,
situation.
The park isn't in that type of shape to do that.
No, they're not. And all that money and being able to fix it. And when I was chairman of the Stadium Authority, you're talking about plumbing and lighting issues and all
Things
those
behind the
things.
scenes, too, right.
Then the concessions and all those things that you have to do. And in the study that I found out, a lot of teams after 5 years, that honeymoon's over,
Sure.
and the attendance takes a dip. What you need to avoid is that second dip, and they took that second dip this year.
Well, they build those outlets shaped like condos for a reason.
Now here's some guys building all kind of baseball fields down in that Pine Richland area where they're going to draw a lot of high school teams to play. So that's going to be more competition.
Another competition, right?
Yeah, that's a different area there, different socioeconomic.
Let's turn to the Pirates. After a 2-0 loss on Monday night to Colorado, the Pirates stand 57-56, 5.5 back. They've lost 5 of 9 on the homestand and now 7-11 since winning 11 straight. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Cardinals at home and Pirate killers. This guy killed them. First baseman Matt Carpenter. He's a quiet player. You look up 29 homers, 60 RBIs, and why he does it against the Pirates, I don't know. That was Chris Archer's debut, 4 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs. But the Pirates, they won the night before. The
won
night
that
he
one.
pitched 7-6. Yes.
Hey, Carpenter, he started awful too. That's the worst part. He'd have unbelievable numbers. His April was awful.
He reminds me, and I'm going back a long ways, not everyone remembers him. Eddie Matthews hit 520 homers. He hit a third of them against the Pirates. You talk about someone who killed the Pirates, and this is what Carpenter does.
Well, every other year he's been, he's got 25, 30, and he got 10 against the Pirates. This year he's killed everybody.
Yeah.
So at least this year, he's leading the major league.
Yeah, who does it?
He's leading.
That Fowler, that dude bats 140.
He's at
and I
he's at
swear to
180.
God, against Pittsburgh, he gets a hit every
Yeah, he
time.
does.
Dexter Fowler. How does that happen?
They're hitting one sour all of a sudden. Eddie. It's
Oh,
hard
did
to
it
believe.
ever.
How's that happen? They for a week and a
Because
half.
we
there.
said something good about him last
week
week.
and a half. They were
That's
killing
why.
the ball.
They murdered Kluber.
Now they can't even get on the base.
And, and they're on this road trip here. Their next 16 games road trip, plus coming home to Cubs and Brewers. They're going to have to win 9 or 10 out of these 16.
Yeah, they are.
You could forget
Oh,
it.
no question. I usually on this show I'll say it's a long year. But when you get into second week of August, it's long anymore. Now you got to win every day.
It's,
You got to win.
it's like the NFL. The second 8 games are you.
Hey,
Here,
what do you guys
the
think?
50
You
games
got to
down
play
the
them.
stretch.
You got to play your best right through this Sunday lineup stuff. We don't have time for that, or not?
No, you don't have, you can't do that.
It depends who's playing good. That's
He
what I
does
say.
it.
Who's playing good?
They had 3 100 hitters in there the other night.
Yeah, who's ever playing good for me is who I'd play.
Now, last week we had a minor disagreement on Hall of Fame. We're going to have a big one this week. So I did more research into the Chris Archer trade. And let me say this. I hope he wins the Cy Young Award. I hope he wins 20 games. I give Huntington credit for making the trade. But he's 54-68 in 7 seasons, 3.70 ERA. His best year was 2015. He was 12-13, struck out 252. Since then, he's been 22-36. He's okay. For the Pirates, maybe better than a lot of other teams that did want him as a 4th starter. So he's good, but he's not this savior that so many people got hyped up about him being that. And I heard one guy call in a fan and say he's all in for the Pirates now because he's a big Chris Archer fan. 54-68. He's okay.
Well, here's the story, though, and I've said this a million other shows. He was the very best. I mean, he was here, and everybody else was here.
Available.
Who was available.
Right, right. I agree
and
that.
That's
I
the
agree.
problem.
One more
Everybody's saying, make a trade. Get somebody.
But they're
Well,
looking
there's
at him
never
as a-
anybody out there. He was the very best.
Eddie, one more thing, to be fair. They play the Red Sox and Yankees 40 times in that league, and
Right.
he never has any teammates.
I understand, and I'm off. Believe me, I hope he wins the Cy Young Award. But I'm just saying this: those people expect the Pirates now, all of a sudden, because they got him. Now I hope he
improve their
turns
team.
around and wins the next 6
It
or
did
7.
improve their team.
It did improve the
No
team.
question about it. He's
but
on
I
the
don't
staff.
necessarily
Though they have 2
think.
more years, that's a big
Yes,
thing.
that's the big thing.
I don't
too.
necessarily think enough where they're going to catch the 8 teams ahead of
Well, I
them.
don't think
No,
so
but
either.
we never thought
Well,
they'd
let's
catch
put it
in
this
the
way.
first place.
They have to put all together. You see, like this, if 3 things go, they can't win. They have to have everything working. Hitting,
Everybody's
pitching,
gotta
bullpen,
hit.
everybody's
Yeah.
got to do
Now,
it.
I was ready to say before they made the trade, I said their bench is hurting them. Pinch hitters, they just don't have anyone really comes up or outside of maybe Freeze that you could use. It's a real good pinch hitter, and we didn't give him his propers for what he's done the last few weeks. So they make another trade with Tampa, and they get a Denny Hecheverria from Tampa with 3 home runs, 26
It's
ribbies,
fielding
and
for him.
258.
It's fielding.
And he's hitting about 120 points higher than Sean Rodriguez.
Yeah, he's not going to be. He's not in it for hitting.
No.
That's for sure. They got him.
If it was shortstop.
Yeah, exactly. They got him for.
They know Mercer's gone.
Mercer's gonna be
Boy,
gone this
Harris
year.
is kicking a lot of balls too.
No, he's not playing good at all.
No.
Not playing.
But I'm
I
saying
can't help that.
he's a better replacement that they need than Rodriguez.
But what Rodriguez does, and nobody will give credit, I'm the only one to stick up for him. He can play. Now, he's a lousy hitter, so I can't say a hitter. If somebody's out at any position on their field, all 8, he's the only guy in baseball. They can play it at A+. Not playing at 3, he can play A+. So are you going to keep the last guy on the team to be able to do that, or do you want the last guy just to come up and pinch hit one time? That's the decision.
But that's
he's
good.
hitting
But-
terrible.
Right.
Terrible.
But from here, building that bench and getting those guys in there to help you, especially late inning replacements and pinch hitters. Freeze is the only guy I have confidence in coming off the bench. That's a hard thing to do to pinch it.
but
He's one of the guys that can do
But
it.
Ed, with an $80 million budget, your bench isn't going to.
Yeah, I was just going to say to you again,
Well,
Eddie, if you can name 2
right.
right now, put your spot
Yeah.
right now.
So
Give me 2
that-
players
you-
available.
You guys are agreeing. Just picking up a pitcher or 2 is not enough if you don't have those other
You got
elements
everything.
in
You
place.
need everything.
And I think he duped the people enough they would start flying back thinking he did all this great
Yes.
stuff. But I think if you look,
Well, he was
under
once
the-
really good helper for them. He was also really. He just can't hit right now. And you got to say, I said it right now. Do you want a guy that's going to hit 240 that plays one position, or a guy hits 180 and plays all 8? That's what you got to decide. And so because they ain't getting a
And he
350
should-
hitter.
and he should hit
I like
180.
that.
There ain't, you
reliever.
aren't getting a 350 hitter.
No,
That's what I'm saying right
I
now.
like the. No, there aren't too many. Remember
No.
Lee Lacey years ago?
There's a great pinch hitter, yes.
He always hit 315, 320. He wanted to play every day, and Tanner told him, "You'd hit 260 if you played every day." I use you in spots. That's why you hit 315.
It's like right now, for example, I'll give you an example. They're putting Cervelli at first base. The game goes 6th inning, 7th inning. If they take Rodriguez out, he's going to be in there in the 9th inning. And you're going to ground ball to Cervelli, and you're going to say, man, I wish Rodriguez was playing first base in the 9th inning. But he's going to be gone, so they're going to be playing Cervelli. And so you're going to have a nice hitter on the bench, but you're going to have a
Yes.
first baseman playing who can't field a lick.
You know what's crazy about this season? Look at the Boston Red Sox. They are ridiculous. 44 games over 500.
115 games.
Punished, pushed the Yankees down the tubes, out of the way. Now 9.5 back. Right now, I had Houston ahead of them last week, but I've switched it and put Boston
Give me
up
credit
top
on
of
that.
Houston.
That's not easy going ahead of Houston because Houston's really good. Boston's one of those teams that is not analytical. See, that's why I root for them.
They haven't pulled off.
They run the bases. They go first to third. They don't depend on a home run to win every game. That's not.
They bunted the other night against
those
the
are nice.
Yankees.
Those are
Oh,
nice,
God.
those are a
All
nice
right.
baseball team.
They
They're,
bunted.
I'm gonna
I was
be
like-
rooting
I
for
was
them
like,
now.
They bunted.
they're a true baseball team. They really are.
Now, Major League Baseball, some rule changes. Major League Baseball wants a serious discussion with the Players Association concerning changes to deal with decreased offense and longer games. Here we go, and I hear that drives me nuts. An effort for sure to be met by great resistance from the union. For the union, their issue of fire them up this spring. There were 100 free agents, and no one wanted to sign. The CBA ends in 2021. Are we looking at a first strike since 1995? Commissioner Manfred, he wants to talk about changes about the game, how it's played, putting balls in play, growing number of strikeouts. We know where that's going this year, more than hits, first time ever. All the defensive shifts going on, decreased batting average, and a 2,000 average drop in attendance. Where are we going?
You just hit all of them.
Where are we going
And
here?
For us, I can go to a game and last 5 hours and I don't blink an eye. For 3 kids right in
about
front
your
of them,
grandson?
for 3 kids, and they can do it too because I talk to them.
But-
But for 3 kids right in front of them who don't
doing
They're
selfies.
saying, they're saying, what is going on here? What's going on? So
Eddie,
it's
the
a tough
ball's in
call.
play such a. I don't think they're ever going to get to the point where two guys on this side of the field, but I think they're going to get to a limited amount of pitchers.
So do
I
I.
really think that's
So do
coming.
I.
More, and they talk about more offense, more home runs. Change. It's the ball field's already small. Balls are already flying out of there. Guys are swinging from the hills. You want baseball or do you want softball?
They want softball. The analytics is dominating the thing. They want
Look at
softball.
the NFL. Every rule change they make helps the offense for 10 years.
Yes, they want softball, but they can't convince any analytical guy to say, "What do you mean? You can hit the ball the other way?" No, we don't want anybody hitting the ball the other way.
Saw somebody do that the other day.
We want somebody hitting home runs. They don't want anybody that.
Yeah, so.
This date, Major League Baseball history, I got the date and I forgot the year, August 6th. I think it was 1973. Hank Aaron of the Braves hit his 660 and 661st home runs to pass Babe Ruth for most home runs hit by a player with one team. And to this day, Hank Aaron, to me, is baseball's legitimate home run king, even though they'll be honoring Barry Bonds with the Giants next week.
That's interesting.
by
73
retiring
73 or
his,
74.
Size 26 neck jersey.
Yeah, Al Downing. I remember who was pitching. And I remember.
April. I was in- yep.
I don't remember 73 or 74. That's a good. I'll
think
look it up
74.
as soon as I get out of here.
I think you're right on
Okay.
70. You're right on 70.
Was
Right,
it
you're both
74?
right.
It was somewhere
I
I
around
think-
remember those guys coming out and hugging him before he got around the
How about
bases,
that?
thinking they could.
Well,
Today's
when
world,
he
you
hit the
couldn't do
home
that.
run off Downing in 75, right?
No, I thought it was 74.
You talking
No,
about?
he-
You're
well,
you're talking about the one that broke
The one that
Bruce's
broke
record.
the record.
Yeah,
I mean, broke,
660, 661.
Yeah, I don't know what year it was. But
I
that's
think it
what
was
I remember.
72 or
It was
73.
April. I know it was April.
Okay, that's interesting.
No,
That
it
is-
was
that's
August.
something to
when
talk
he hit
about.
those 600.
That's something
Those
to
ones
talk
that tie,
about.
but the one
666.
that
Oh,
broke.
off Downing.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yes.
Right. Now, let's turn to the Steelers. The first exhibition game's coming up this Thursday in Philly with the Eagles. Debut of the new offensive coordinator, Randy Fichtner. New secondary coach, Tom Bradley. I don't know who has the tougher job here. I'm going to say Bradley.
Well, so would I.
I
for
think.
sure.
But interesting that Art Rooney complained about the number of night games, how it's decreased attendance and revenue. And I'm saying, come on, you're in prime time. And number two, night games. Why don't a lot of people go? Longer period to drink. More rowdy fans
Work
at
in the
night.
morning.
You have to go to work the next morning. I'm not sure what he's upset about.
He shouldn't be upset a bit. They got season ticket holders waiting still for
And
tickets.
if you're lousy, you don't play at night. So which would you rather be?
And what in September when they opened with Cleveland? Before that, he gets a check for $100 million before the season even
We're
starts.
supposed to cry
What
for him?
decreased
Are we supposed to
revenue?
cry?
Oh, we're all upset.
Poor Rooney's. Can you
$10
believe that he even mentioned that?
How much it cost?
Somebody should have slapped him on the spot.
No,
This is to cry about
Don't
that.
keep quiet.
Yes.
They've taken and taken and taken.
Jeez.
Albert, 2 stadiums built for them.
Yes, listen to this.
Let's finish with this thing. In the new NFL tackling rule, and some players are upset. What is so hard to understand? You see Ryan Shazier, he dropped his head, hit with the crown of his helmet. Going back to when I played, when we coached, we said this. You tackle and block with your eyes up, your head up, and your neck bowed. What is so hard? What are these players complaining about? And any coach who doesn't know how to teach blocking or tackling like that, from the little league up, shouldn't be a
He's going to
coach.
tell you why. Why? They don't try
They
to
don't
tackle
anymore. That's my answer. I was going to tell you that. We try to get people
Try
down.
to blow 'em up.
They try to hurt people.
Yeah.
They're trying, and so they end up getting hurt.
You know, that's the only times a coach ever yelled at a player and grabbed his shirt. If he ducked his head on a blocker
Yes.
tackle,
Get hurt.
that's the only
Yeah,
time.
get hurt.
And we've run out of time. Next week, join us at Pine Richland High School for our high school football kickoff show. We'll see you then.